The 9 lessons that I've learned from investing over 65 grand over the past few years. I still remember the first time I invested $5,000 paid in full. I saved up 10 grand in high school so I could invest into a Kangen water machine. A year later, I eventually signed up for a coaching program that eventually would change my life. And on that sales call, I asked the girl, hey, can I talk with my partner about this at the time? And she was like, no, flat out. She was like, no. And I still remember that. Thank goodness she just said flat out no, because I then paid in full. And then I still am coaching for them today in their program. Let's get into the 9 lessons that I've learned in no particular order. The first one is risk tolerance. You must understand that achieving anything, any type of dream, goal, requires a level of risk. And the more that you're willing to risk, the more and the bigger the reward will be. However, the scarier, the more uncomfortable the emotion will be when you take that risk. I've noticed, though, that the people who join coaching programs who take the biggest risk, they typically win because it actually causes a level of pain for them to pay attention. Have you heard the saying, the more you pay attention? That's where it comes from, because they take a big enough risk that it's painful enough so they do the work. So taking risks, I've found, is one way to fast track your reward when investing into yourself. And the people who say, F it, are usually the ones who get the biggest reward. Number 2 is really humbling yourself, putting your ego aside, being willing to ask questions, being willing to look stupid, being willing to take advice from people who are ahead of you, and listening to what they have to say and taking action on it, implementing it. Lesson that I'm continuing to strive for, however, I'm not perfect at all, is showing up in excellence, no matter what the job assignment is. And whether that is literally just talking one-on-one with someone, how can you be more present? How can you listen more attentively? Or whether it's doing a simple task like uploading a reel to Instagram, how can you show up with excellence and act like the assignment that you were given was by God? Because it is, right? But I feel like I have sometimes been comfortable and wanted to just go with the rhythm of things and not push myself. And that's typically when I let my foot off the gas and I don't get as great of results. So take it from my learned wisdom, continue to push the pedal to the floor, show up with excellence, whatever the job assignment is, striving for excellent and not just a job complete. For instance, when you are learning a new skill, like when I was learning copy and I signed up for a copy course, I wasn't just taking the information, I was also studying, practicing every day. So like writing new emails, writing VSLs, writing ads every single day so that that skill could be fortified in my mind. And then obviously that would improve me over time and I would get feedback. Third lesson. Are you ready for it? Mediocrity. I've heard this many times. My mentors would tell me, but I didn't truly understand the weight of it, is not giving in to temptation and not settling for distractions so that I can continue to achieve my goals. So when you settle for mediocrity or when you give in to an experience, I found it is typically out of wanting to be liked and from that people-pleasing nature. But when you don't settle, and when you don't settle for Netflix, you don't settle for clubs, you don't settle for the things that people are doing where you don't want to be, you say yes to other things. And this is a continuous lesson that I am always learning and I'm always working on, because temptation will come. You either have 2 options: to sacrifice or to live a mediocre life. Lesson number 4 is enjoy the boring work. One of the first coaching programs I invested into, he told us to read the book Influence by Robert Cialdini. Highly recommend that book. Although it is like a Bible, it is extremely long. It is hard to digest some of the information in the book. However, I remember when I was reading it, I feel like I was training my mind, fortifying my mind to enjoy the boring work and tie the boring work, reading books, showing up day after day with success, with the dream life. When you're bored in business, when you don't know what to do, just stay bored, because then you will allow creativity to come in, and that creativity is life force for your business. Number 5, the 5th lesson that I learned on this journey of investing over 65K over the past few years has been alignment. Now, when I first started, I had some mentors who were extremely focused on always working. How many hours can I put in? Your input equals your output, which there is a level of that I agree with. However, I began to get burnt out, and I take extreme ownership over this because I was not taking care of myself and prioritizing self-care. However, their method of scaling of growth was different than the one and the path that I wanted to take. So I found a mentor that her way of living was completely 180. And it actually triggered me a lot. And that's a little sub lesson inside the lesson, is finding a mentor that triggers you. And also the alignment came when I found a mentor who matched similar values that I wanted to have. So I implemented through this process of almost becoming burnt out, taking 2 days of rest, which was pretty wild for me at the time. Through taking that rest, I began to reflect on the life I actually wanted to live, because I was just rowing, but I didn't know where I wanted to go. And so when I zoomed out and saw the bigger vision and saw where I was heading, I was like, that's not where I want to go. So, and I saw her life and I was like, that's where I want to go, right? Much more vitality and cultivating happiness and joy in your relationships, in your health, in your finances. Because if I found that if I'm continuing to keep going and setting bigger goals, the fulfillment doesn't come from that. And that's just for me. Maybe it does for you. Maybe the fulfillment will come from money. But the alignment came when I was able to zoom out and create a daily and weekly practice that allowed me to realign with myself. So bigger picture here is really like, get clear on what you want, right? This does require time with yourself and journaling and reflecting, and 3 questions that you can use to find alignment and understand what your authentic code is. So number 1 would be, think of your ideal day. Like, what things would you be doing on a day-to-day that would bring you the most joy, and list the top 4. Number 2 is reflect on what you enjoyed most in your childhood. What activities were you drawn to as a child? Were there any specific games? Were there any specific books, activities that you loved doing? Last question, number 3, is when you dream about your future, what do you visualize for yourself? What activities, where are you at? Like, who are you around? List those out. And then you can really reflect on your answers to these questions and start to see truly like how you want to live your life based on these answers. There's a lot more questions that I answered when I was trying to reflect on this, but those were some of the main core 3 questions that truly helped me. So definitely give those a try. The next lesson is steady growth over fast and unsustainable growth. And in the beginning, I was really obsessed with speed. I thought to myself, how fast can I grow this? I'd ask myself, what can I do more of? What tasks can I list off and check off? Like, what can I do to really build momentum and start to see results as quick as possible, which was a great mindset to have. And I still have a level of that, but I think expanding beyond just 30 days, 60 days, 90-day goals, and thinking about, okay, what is the long-term vision? What do I truly want to do? And then working backwards from that and understanding that, yes, your inputs will chip away at that big goal and that big vision, but it'll also allow you to find joy in the little steps along the journey to you getting there, because it is such a big goal that you have that not working yourself to death every single day is going to ultimately allow you to get there and still remain happy and still remain in your joy and still have peace. When I was in that whirlwind of ambition, I had an epiphany where I realized that my success wasn't going to come from the money, but more so the level of impact I wanted to create. When I'm constantly going, am I creating, am I executing from a place of love, of a place of service, or am I executing from a place of wanting to get and wanting to have some external validation? And when I come from that place of service and impact and love, it does require taking time for myself. It does require returning back and having time to recuperate my vitality and come from an overflowing cup. It's really about steady growth while still maintaining that balance for drive and wanting to do more, achieve more, and see what you're capable of more. Verse 7 is your focus, which is extremely important. I found that the people who come into this space who are able to master the skill of focus and the skill of discipline typically get results much quicker. And I found that within myself. So when I thought of focus like gas, and your business is a fire, and every day you're trying to build this big fire, and so you're doing the inputs, right? You're putting the kindling, the wood in the right position, and then your focus is like the gas that you pour on the fire. But if you have multiple fires going around and only a small amount of gas, then only a few fires will be able to actually catch hold and start flaming unless you reserve the gas for just one fire. And when you do that, that's when you can have those huge fires and you can really see the flames flaming. Use your resources, your focus on just one fire when you're first starting out. And then over time, you can, as those fires start to grow and maintain consistency, you can spread your focus, but in the beginning, just focus on one thing at a time. Number 8 is internal and personal development. So my best months were actually the ones where I was very dialed in on my personal growth, finding myself that I am worthy of success, that I am worthy of this money flowing to me, the abundance flowing to me, that I'm worthy of rest as well. Was joining coaching programs where I learned to dig into personal childhood trauma, where I learned to rewire my subconscious beliefs, rewire childhood memories so they matched with a memory filled and a childhood basked in love, very vulnerable, having conversations that were extremely hard to have with family members and truly facing any trauma head on. Once I did that, I was able to have much more confidence in myself. I was able to look in the mirror and truly love the person that I saw staring back at me because I had formed a deeper connection with her. And I think that the relationship that you have with other people, it can also be a reflection of the relationship that you have with yourself. So when I was able to get deep, when I was able to truly understand like what limiting beliefs were holding me back and rewire those, love the past versions of myself, I was also able to step into a more loving version of myself too, which I think in turn attracted better relationships, better clients. And another part of this was when I surrendered my finances, my relationships, my health over to God, that is when I was able to fully detach from the outcome and know that no matter what, no matter decision that I make, it'll always lead to the right destination if my compass is God. So I would take time to sit with Him, and I would take time to cultivate a relationship with Him. So I knew confidently that I would be able to follow the footsteps I was meant to go because my compass was God. And that allowed me to detach from any outcome and show up with more confidence, more ease, and just be myself. Number 9, none of it matters unless you do the work. So when you're taking action, face any fear that you have head on, march boldly towards the goals that you have, towards the dreams that you have, because your future self is watching. So choose wisely.